What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest superstars meets one of daytime television's most outspoken hosts in a conversation that spirals completely out of control? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation between Jennifer Lopez and Joy Behar that had everyone talking. This isn't your typical celebrity interview gone wrong. This is a masterclass in how quickly things can escalate when two strong personalities clash over topics that hit way too close to home. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below because this story has layers that will keep you questioning everything you thought you knew about celebrity interviews. The tension was palpable from the moment Jennifer Lopez walked onto the View set. The usual warm welcomes and pleasantries felt forced, almost rehearsed, as if everyone knew something was brewing beneath the surface. Joy Behar, never one too shy, away from controversy, had that look in her eyes that veteran daytime TV watchers know all too well. The look that says she's about to ask the questions everyone else is too polite to ask. "Jennifer, welcome back to The View," Joy began, her voice carrying just enough sweetness to mask the sharpness underneath. "It's always a pleasure having you here, especially when you have so much to talk about." Jennifer Lopez smiled, but those who know her well could see the slight tightening around her eyes. "Thank you, Joy. Always happy to be here with you, ladies." The other hosts exchanged glances, sensing the undercurrent of tension that neither Jennifer nor Joy seemed willing to acknowledge directly. Whoopi Goldberg tried to steer the conversation toward safer territory, mentioning Jennifer's latest projects and upcoming ventures, but Joy had other plans. "You know, Jennifer, I have to ask," Joy interrupted, leaning forward with that predatory smile that makes guests squirm. "There's been a lot of talk lately about authenticity in Hollywood, about celebrities who present one image to the public while living completely different lives behind closed doors. What's your take on that?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Jennifer's publicist, sitting just off camera, visibly tensed. This wasn't the line of questioning they had discussed beforehand. This was Joy going off script, and everyone in the studio could feel it. "I think authenticity is important," Jennifer replied carefully, her media training kicking in. "I've always tried to be genuine with my fans, to show them who I really am really." Joy's eyebrows shot up, her tone dripping with skepticism, because from where I'm sitting, it seems like there's a pretty big gap between the Jennifer Lopez we see in magazines and the Jennifer Lopez that people who work with you describe behind the scenes. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Ann attempted to jump in with a lighter comment, but Joy wasn't having it. She was on the hunt, and she had Jennifer Lopez in her crosshairs. "I'm not sure what you're getting at, Joy," Jennifer said, her voice remaining steady but her posture becoming more defensive. "I've always been professional in my work relationships." "Professional," Joy repeated, as if tasting the word. "That's an interesting choice of words, because I've been hearing some very different stories from people who've worked on your sets, people who've been in your presence when the cameras weren't rolling." The studio fell silent, except for the hum of the cameras and the barely audible whispers of crew members, who were suddenly very aware they were witnessing something unprecedented. Jennifer Lopez, the woman who had built her career on being unshakable, was being systematically dismantled by Joy Behar on live television. "Joy, I don't know what rumors you've been listening to," Jennifer said, her voice taking on a sharper edge, "but I think we should focus on why I'm actually here today." "Oh, but this is exactly why you're here," Joy shot back, her smile widening. "You're here to promote your latest project, to sell the Jennifer Lopez brand to millions of viewers. But what if that brand isn't what it appears to be? What if the whole thing is just smoke and mirrors?" The other hosts were now actively trying to intervene, with Whoopi attempting to redirect the conversation and Sarah making jokes that fell flat in the charged atmosphere. But Joy and Jennifer were locked in a battle of wills that was far from over. "I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am," Jennifer said, her voice rising slightly. "I've earned my success through dedication, talent, and yes, hard work. I don't appreciate the implication that it's all some kind of act, but that's just it, isn't it?" Joy pressed on, relentless. "The whole thing is an act. The perfect relationships, the flawless image, the relentless positivity. People are starting to see through it. Jennifer, they're starting to ask questions about what's really going on behind that carefully crafted facade." The camera operators were having a field day. switching between close-ups of Jennifer's increasingly strained expression and Joy's triumphant smirk. The audience, initially excited to see their favorite celebrity, was now watching in stunned silence as the interview devolved into something resembling a public execution. "You know what, Joy?" Jennifer said, her voice dropping to a dangerously low register. "I came here in good faith to have a conversation about my work, about projects that I'm passionate about. I didn't come here to be ambushed by someone who clearly has their own agenda." "My agenda," Joy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My agenda is the truth, Jennifer. Something that seems to be in short supply in your world. The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Even the cameramen were holding their breath, sensing that they were about to witness something that would be replayed and analyzed for weeks to come. The studio atmosphere was electric, with tension as Jennifer Lopez stared down Joy Behar, her carefully maintained composure beginning to crack under the relentless pressure. What had started as a standard celebrity interview had transformed into something far more sinister. A public dissection of everything Jennifer had worked to build over decades in the entertainment industry. "The truth," Jennifer repeated, her voice carrying a mixture of disbelief and growing anger. "You want to talk about truth? Let's talk about the truth of what you're doing right now, Joy. You're sitting there with a smug smile, trying to tear down someone who's actually accomplished something with their life." Joy's eyes lit up at the pushback. This was exactly what she had been hoping for. The moment when the polished celebrity facade would finally crack and reveal what lay beneath. "Oh, so now we're getting somewhere," she said, practically purring with satisfaction. Finally, a little genuine emotion from the queen of manufactured moments. The other hosts were now openly uncomfortable, with Whoopi attempting to interject, "Ladies, maybe we should take a step back here." But both Joy and Jennifer were too far into their battle to acknowledge the intervention. Manufactured moments. Jennifer's voice rose, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Every success I've had, every milestone I've reached, has been earned through blood, sweat, and tears. While you've been sitting behind this desk, making cheap shots at people who are actually out there creating, I've been building an empire." "An empire built on what exactly?" Joy shot back, leaning even further forward, "Because from what I hear, it's built on the backs of people you've stepped on, assistants you've screamed at, crew members you've treated like they're beneath you. That's not an empire, Jennifer. That's a house of cards." The accusation hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Jennifer's face flushed red, her breathing becoming more labored as she struggled to maintain any semblance of control. The cameras captured every micro-expression, every telltale sign that she was about to explode. "You don't know what you're talking about," Jennifer said through gritted teeth. "You're repeating gossip and rumors spread by people who are jealous of success. They'll never achieve themselves jealous." Joy laughed, but it was a harsh, grating sound. "Jennifer, I've been in this business longer than you've been alive. I've seen 1,000 versions of you come and go. The only difference is that most of them had the decency to be honest about who they really were." Sarah N. made another, desperate attempt to lighten the mood. "Maybe we should talk about Jennifer's upcoming projects," but Joy waved her off dismissively. "No, Sarah, this is important," Joy said, never taking her eyes off Jennifer. "This is about accountability. This is about what happens when someone spends so long living in their own constructed reality that they forget there are consequences. For their actions, consequences." Jennifer's voice cracked slightly. "What consequences are you talking about? I've never been arrested, never been in a scandal, never done anything that would hurt my fans or my family. What exactly are you trying to prove here?" "I'm trying to prove that the person sitting in that chair right now is not the same person who shows up to work every day," Joy replied, her voice taking on a prosecutorial tone. "I'm trying to prove that there's a difference between the Jennifer Lopez brand and the actual human being behind it." The studio was now completely silent except for the whispered conversations of crew members who were frantically trying to figure out how to handle what was rapidly becoming a public relations nightmare. Jennifer's publicist was making frantic hand signals from off-camera, but Jennifer was too consumed by the confrontation to notice. "You know what your problem is, Joy?" Jennifer said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than any shout. "Your problem is that you've spent so long sitting behind this desk, criticizing and judging people who are actually out there living their lives, that you've forgotten what it means to actually create something meaningful. Meaningful. Joy scoffed. What's meaningful about another generic pop song or another forgettable romantic comedy? What's meaningful about building a brand that's entirely based on selling an image that doesn't exist? At least, I'm not sitting here like some bitter has-been trying to drag down people who are still relevant, Jennifer snapped, finally losing the last vestiges of her media training. At least I'm not making a career out of being cruel to people who come on this show in good faith. The insult hit Joy like a physical blow. Her smile faltered for just a moment before returning with renewed venom. Bitter has-been, she repeated. Slowly, Jennifer. I've been on this show for over 2 decades. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, Nobel Prize winners. You make bubblegum music and star in movies that people forget about before they leave the theater. And yet here you are, so obsessed with my life that you've turned what should have been a friendly interview into a character assassination, Jennifer fired back. If my work is so forgettable, why are you spending so much time talking about it? Joy's face reddened, her careful composure finally beginning to crack. Because someone needs to call out the hypocrisy, she said, her voice rising. Someone needs to point out that the emperor has no clothes, that the whole Jennifer Lopez phenomenon is nothing more than smoke and mirrors and really good publicists. That's enough, Jennifer said, standing up from her chair. The sudden movement sent a ripple of shock through the studio. I don't have to sit here and listen to this anymore. Oh, what are you going to do? Joy taunted, standing up as well. Are you going to storm off? Are you going to throw one of your famous tantrums? Because that would really prove my point about the real Jennifer Lopez, wouldn't it? The confrontation had reached a boiling point, with both women standing face to face across the interview table, their voices echoing through the stunned studio. The other hosts had given up trying to intervene, recognizing that this had gone far beyond anything they could control. The cameras continued to roll, capturing every moment of what was quickly becoming one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. You want to see the real Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer said, her voice shaking with rage. Fine, here she is. I'm someone who has worked harder than you could ever imagine to build something lasting in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. I'm someone who has supported countless charities, created opportunities for other artists, and tried to be a positive role model for young people around the world. Spare me the saint act, Joy interrupted. We all know it's just another performance. And here's something else that's real, Jennifer continued, her voice growing stronger. I'm someone who doesn't have to tear other people down to feel good about myself. I'm someone who doesn't hide behind a desk making cruel jokes about people, who are actually out there taking risks and putting themselves on the line. The studio fell completely silent as the two women stared each other down, the weight of their words hanging heavy in the air between them. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of cameras' worry and the barely audible whispers of crew members, who knew they were witnessing television history in the making. Jennifer Lopez and Joy Behar stood facing each other like two gladiators in an arena, each waiting for the other to make the next move in what had become the most explosive confrontation in daytime television. You know what, Joy? Jennifer said, her voice now eerily calm after the storm of emotion that had just passed. I've spent my entire career trying to rise above people like you. People who mistake cruelty for cleverness, who think that tearing others down somehow elevates them, but I'm done trying to be polite about it. Joy's eyes narrowed, sensing that Jennifer was about to deliver a knockout blow. Oh, please, enlighten us all about people like me, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm sure this will be fascinating. People like you are exactly what's wrong with this industry, Jennifer continued, her composure returning as she found her footing in the argument. You sit in your comfortable chair, making judgments about people whose shoes you could never fill, whose risks you'd never take, whose level of success you'd never achieve. You've made a career out of being a professional critic, someone who creates nothing but destroys everything. The accusation hit Joy like a slap across the face. Her mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. I've been entertaining people for decades, she stammered, clearly caught off guard by the directness of the attack. Entertaining people? Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call this? Is that what you call systematically trying to humiliate someone who came here in good faith? Because if this is your idea of entertainment, Joy, then maybe it's time for you to find a new line of work. Whoopi Goldberg made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "Ladies, we need to take a breath here," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had been moderating conflicts for years. This has gotten way out of hand. But Joy was too far gone to listen to reason. The criticism had struck too close to home, and she was now fighting for her professional reputation as much as her personal dignity. "You want to know what's entertaining?" she shot back, her voice rising to a near shriek. "What's entertaining is watching someone who's built their entire identity on being perfect finally show their true colors. What's entertaining is seeing the mask slip and revealing the diva underneath." "Diva," Jennifer repeated, her eyebrows shooting up. "You want to talk about divas? Let's talk about someone who's so desperate to stay relevant that she attack a guest on her own show just to generate headlines. Let's talk about someone who's so insecure about her own legacy that she has to tear down others to feel important." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Joy's face went through a series of expressions, from shock to anger to something that looked almost like hurt. But the hurt quickly transformed back into rage. "You don't know anything about my legacy," Joy said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I've been fighting for women's rights, for social justice, for truth in media since before you were even famous. I've earned my place at this table. Have you?" Jennifer asked, tilting her head slightly. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've spent the last 20 minutes proving that you'd rather destroy someone than actually engage with them. It looks like you've forgotten what it means to be a professional." Sarah Ann attempted to interject with a nervous laugh. Maybe we should move on to lighter topics. But neither combatant was listening anymore. Professional Joy's voice cracked. "On the word you want to talk about professional, a professional doesn't throw tantrums when they're asked difficult questions. A professional doesn't storm off when the conversation gets challenging." "You're right," Jennifer said, surprising everyone with her agreement. "A professional doesn't do those things. But you know what else a professional doesn't do? They don't ambush their guests with personal attacks disguised as journalism. They don't use their platform to settle personal scores or feed their own ego." The studio had become a pressure cooker, with tension so thick it was almost visible. The other hosts had essentially given up trying to mediate, recognizing that this had gone far beyond anything they could control. Even the audience, initially excited to see their favorite celebrity, was now watching in stunned silence as the interview devolved into something resembling a public execution. Personal scores. Joy laughed bitterly. "Jennifer, I don't have any personal scores to settle with you. I barely think about you when you're not sitting in that chair promoting your latest project. And yet you've spent the last half hour trying to tear apart everything I've worked for," Jennifer replied coolly. "If you barely think about me, Joy, then why does my success seem to bother you so much?" The question hung in the air like a trap, and Joy realized too late that she had walked right into it. Her face flushed red as she struggled to find a response that wouldn't make her look even worse. "Your success doesn't bother me," Joy said, but her voice lacked conviction. "What bothers me is the way you've achieved it, the way you've treated people along the way." "The way I've treated people," Jennifer's voice rose again. "Joy, in the last 30 minutes, you've called me fake, accused me of being cruel to my employees, suggested that my entire career is built on lies, and implied that I'm some kind of fraud. And you want to lecture me about how I treat people." The hypocrisy was so glaring that even Joy seemed to realize she had painted herself into a corner. She opened her mouth to respond, but Jennifer wasn't finished. "You know what the real difference is between us, Joy?" Jennifer continued, her voice gaining strength. "I build things. I create music that brings people joy. I make movies that entertain families. I run businesses that employ hundreds of people. What do? You sit behind this desk and tear down the people who are actually out there making things happen." "That's enough," Joy said, but her voice was weak now, the fight going out of her. "No, it's not enough," Jennifer replied, walking around the table to face Joy directly. "Because you started this, and now you're going to hear me finish it. You want to know who the real Jennifer Lopez is? She's someone who's had enough of people like you. She's someone who's tired of being polite to bullies who hide behind the pretense of journalism." Joy took a step back, clearly intimidated by Jennifer's proximity and the intensity of her words. "You're making a mistake," she said weakly. "The only mistake I made was thinking I could have a civilized conversation with someone who's forgotten what civilization means," Jennifer replied. She turned to address the camera directly, her voice clear and strong. "I came here today to talk about my work, about projects that I'm passionate about. Instead, I was subjected to a character assassination by someone who seems to think that cruelty is a substitute for intelligence." She paused, looking around the studio at the shocked faces of the crew, the other hosts, and the audience. "I've spent my entire career trying to be a positive role model, trying to inspire people to chase their dreams and work hard for what they want. I won't sit here and let someone tear that down for their own entertainment." With that, Jennifer. Lopez removed her microphone, placed it carefully on the table, and walked toward the exit. The cameras followed her every step, capturing the moment that would be replayed and analyzed for weeks to come. "Where are you going?" Joy called after her, her voice cracking with desperation. "We're not finished here." Jennifer paused at the edge of the set and turned back one final time. "Yes, we are," she said simply. "We're very finished." And with that, she walked off the set, leaving behind a stunned studio and a host who had finally pushed too far. The cameras continued to roll, capturing Joy's shocked expression and the uncomfortable silence that followed one of the most dramatic exits in television history. The confrontation was over, but the impact of what had just happened would reverberate through the entertainment industry for months to come. Jennifer Lopez had drawn a line in the sand, and everyone watching knew that daytime television would never be quite the same again. What do you think about celebrities who fight back against hostile interviews? Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments below whether you think Jennifer Lopez was justified in walking out, or if she should have stayed to finish the interview.